Have you ever looked at some of your favorite YouTubers and just thought, wow, it seems like they just wake up in the morning, switch on the camera and deliver a masterpiece? It kind of feels that way because we're just seeing the end result, the end product, the polished final version. What you don't see are the multiple layers that these creators have behind the scenes. Processes they go through to come up with ideas, how to take multiple ideas and filter them down into a cohesive structure for a video, coming up with a script for that video, coming up with a decent hook, coming up with a structure that keeps things interesting. But don't forget, when you're watching those creators, you're just seeing the polished end result. It's like going to a museum to see the works of your favorite artists. You're only seeing the final result. You're not seeing the struggle. You're not seeing any of the processes that went into making that art. And that's great, and we can appreciate that art. But as a creator, when we look at fellow creators and we're only seeing their polished final products, their polished videos, we sometimes forget about all the background stuff that's actually going on that enables them to produce that content. And it can almost seem like they've got some kind of superpower that they just switch on the camera and deliver magic. So if you're struggling to get content out, if you just feel like you look at other creators and it just seems, wow, how do they make that look so easy? I'm going to cover a few things in this video which might help you, a few things that I've tried, a few things that I continue to do to try and manage my idea process in the background. So a lot of people think that making YouTube videos is just about your camera, your lighting and your microphone and making videos, but it's actually a whole lot more than that. And if you're struggling to just press record, switch on the camera and record a video because you feel like you've got nothing to say, or you just go dead on camera because you can't get the words out, then it might be you need to focus a bit more on creating some background processes, some systems that will enable you to get stuff out of your head and eventually filter it down into proper structured video ideas. And to do that, there's various tools and platforms and processes that you can use, and this varies from creator to creator. But I'm going to give you an insight into some things that I use and some processes that I do in the background that hopefully will help you along. So for me, one of the most important challenges is to get things out of my head. I'm a person that overthinks a lot. I will have a million ideas running around in my head, and the first challenge for me is to get that stuff out of my head or it'll never make it to a video. And I've tried a lot of applications, a lot of mobile applications or note-taking apps to try and help me accomplish this, but nothing was really working for me to get that initial brain dump, to get that mess of ideas out of my head, until I discovered what works for me, and that's the most simple element that I could possibly imagine, which is an everyday notebook. So a lot of people talk about daily journaling and how that can help you, and I'm a big advocate of that. I think daily journaling is excellent to get ideas out on paper, but you don't necessarily have to be writing a journal. You just need to be in some place where you enter a flow state where you can just write things down that are in your head. What that looks like for me is I try and pick a half-hour or 40-minute window in my day where I'm not going to get any distractions and nobody's around, and I can just sit in an environment where I'm feeling relaxed. And I just open up my notebook and I've got a pen and I literally just start scribbling down ideas that I've currently got in my head. They don't have to be in any particular order. They don't have to have any structure. The most important thing for me at this stage is just to get stuff out of my head and onto paper. And there's something for me fundamentally different about just having a pen in my hands, touching the paper and just letting my body do the work, letting my hands write the words out, than using any kind of software application. When I'm writing things on a piece of paper, there is no structure, there is no guardrails, there's nothing to stop me just spewing out what's in my head, and that's what I need at that stage. This is purely just a brain dump exercise. So at this stage in my process, there really are no rules. It's just sit down quietly and let the pen do the talking. Just whatever's in my head, just get it out. So if you're going to take one thing away from this video, then let it be that, especially if you find yourself struggling to make content or struggling to make sense of stuff going around in your head and you can't formulate ideas. Sometimes trying to take the mess that's going on in your head and just trying to output that into a structured video script is not going to work. You need things to take those ideas and to filter them, and for me that's just to dump it straight into a notebook. So the next step for me is to come up with some bite-sized pieces of content, so some little concepts or opinions or viewpoints, and I tend to go back through the sort of gibberish I've written in my notebook and try and formulate that into something a little bit more structured. And by structured, I don't mean a long-form YouTube video. We're way off that right now. All I'm trying to do at this point is just find some seeds, just some little ideas. So this is where microblogging social media comes in. And by microblogging, I mean things like Twitter or X or Blue Sky or Threads. It doesn't matter which of those platforms you use. Personally, I use Threads mainly because I've found a really good supportive community of creators on there. And if you want to join the conversation, then check me out at Craig Unfiltered on Threads. So what I like to use things like X or Threads for is just to take those tiny little seeds, those tiny little viewpoints, and structure them into something really manageable and bite-sized and just get it out there in the world. This does two things for me. It's kind of the first step of creating some kind of structure out of the mess that I've got in my notebook. And it allows me to kind of test some ideas with my audience. I can just put out random things. I could do 2 or 3 a day if I wanted to. And this gives me the opportunity to say things out loud to other people, and I can see some response. I can see what's sort of generating some interest. I might get some comments on those that make me think further about the viewpoint that I'm trying to talk about. But the important thing here is we're just talking about small, very bite-sized pieces of content. They're easy to produce, you can get instant feedback, and I'll kind of know quite easily then if this is something that I really want to explore more and build on, or if it's just like a random fart that I'll forget about. So the next step for me is a bit of a new one for me. I'm still trying to get more comfortable with it, and that's short-form content. So when it comes to creating videos, I've always been a long-form creator. I've been on YouTube doing long-form videos for many years, and short form has just never been a format that I've really adapted to well. When I'm on camera, I tend to like to take my time to build up to points and to structure things in a certain way, and trying to get a concept out in 30 seconds is pretty new to me, but it's something I'm trying to get better at. And one of the advantages of short form content, so posting things out to TikTok and Instagram, is that I don't have to come up with such a long structure. I don't have to put so much effort in as I would with a long form video. So it's a great way to just experiment with a slightly fleshed out idea, a bit like we do with Threads, but just with a little bit more meat on it. And this is then a great way to take that 1 or 2 ideas that I've been floating around on Threads and combine them into some short form video and see if I enjoy speaking about that topic, see if it's something that I've got some passion for, and seeing what the reaction is. So at this point, I'm in a much better place in my head when it comes to thinking of longer form content and bigger structure. So what I sometimes find is that I've got 2 or 3 kind of related short form content pieces that can tie together into something a bit more long form. I've been talking about the same subject from a couple of different angles, and by going through the process, not starting on Threads and then going onto Instagram, by going through that process of making the smaller bite-sized content, I can start to see how that could tie together into a more long-form video. So at this point, I feel like I'm in a better place to start brainstorming a structure for a more long-form video, tying these ideas together. But sometimes it still feels like something's missing. I'm just struggling to find a way to connect all the dots, to get everything to fit together cohesively. And there's one thing that I've tried before when I get to this point, and I'm going to try and do it a lot more going forward, and that's writing. So for me, there's a huge difference between sitting in front of a camera trying to deliver content in a structured way, or writing things out into a script format, or writing an article. And for me, I've always loved writing, and I've always enjoyed creating blog posts and articles. And for me, it's the ideal way to really focus my mind and get me to think about a concept or something I'm trying to get across to the audience and structure it in a proper way. And this may not be for everybody. Not everybody is a writer. Some people hate writing. For me, though, it uses different parts of the brain when I'm trying to get out an idea. And if I create the article first, then the article will spark things off in my head for how I can do the video. So that's something to think about. If you are someone who enjoys writing, then incorporate that into your content creation strategy, even for video. Create an article before you make the video. Not only is that helping your creative process, but you've then also got an outlet. You can publish those articles on a newsletter, and you've got yet another way of building an audience. So that's a glimpse into a few of the things that I do and I'm trying to do, or that I want to do in the future, to create those systems behind the camera, the things you don't see, that will enable me to come up with better content going forward. But as I said, every creator is different and you do you, but what you do need is something behind the scenes. You need a structure, you need systems. You can't just switch the camera on and expect to deliver magic, because that's not how your favorite creators do it, even though it looks like that. So hopefully this video has helped you, or just given you something to think about. Why not try watching this one next, and I'll see you in the next one.
Push it to the limit, I can't go no more.